Hi, everyone. Welcome to Habits and Hustle. Today we have my friend on today, Doc Jen Fit, otherwise known as Jen Escare, which I always seem to screw up your last name. She has something called the mobility method and also the optimal body. And also she's just an all-around great girl. And she was on before, but didn't really work out with the taping. So we're going to do this again. So thank you so much for coming on. And I guess, hey, how are you?
Thank you for having me here, especially after
the whole kerfuffle with the tape. That's fine. I'm happy to have you because number one, I just love you as a human being.
Yeah.
And you have so much amazing information to share. As I was saying to you before, I don't even know where to begin.
I
Do
know.
we talk about the mobility method, the new program, the optimal body? I think, I don't know, where should we start? Let's start with what we were talking about earlier, which was the whole thing about listening to our bodies and what you call the body conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So the floor is yours, my girl.
Yeah.
Start.
So the reason I call it a body conversation is because I relate it to any other kind of conversation we have. So when we're having a conversation, it's what someone is saying to us, what we're internalizing, and then what I think is the most important part, what we're listening to.
Right.
So that relates to the body in terms of the external conversation. I say for a body conversation is what the doctors are saying to you, what your family says to you, oh, this runs in our family, or you're genetically predisposed for this, or, oh, you have this kind of back pain. Well, now you can't do this, and you got this, and you're going to do this. And it's what everyone is just projecting onto our bodies. And we usually internalize. Right. And I've seen a lot of patients where that becomes the norm, where it's oh, okay, my doctor said I won't be able to run anymore, or I can't do this anymore, or I have this and now this is my body, or my mom had plantar fasciitis, so I have plantar fasciitis.
Right.
And what
That's
we
a good
think
point.
of what, is told to us becomes what we internalize.
Well, also because I think that, first of all, I should say, I think I didn't even say because I was just saying that you're my friend and Doc Jen Fit. She's also a doctor of physical therapy,
Yeah.
Correct? So that's why we're talking about how the mind and body are so connected. And I totally agree with what you're saying, because whatever we think we are going to be,
Mm-hmm.
or vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you're told you have this because it's genetics, then that's how you're going to basically be in life, and
Yeah.
you're going to act like that.
Yeah.
So what do you do to kind of, I guess, to counter that? What's the plan? If someone says, like you were saying, your mom has plantar fasciitis,
Yeah.
as a silly example.
Yeah. But it's true. A lot of people come in saying that, well, this is the structure, which, yes, genetically, structurally, we can take on our structure from our parents.
Okay.
To a certain degree, but at the same time, we can always change internally what's happening based on the exercises we choose to do, the mobility we choose to do, and what we put into our bodies. So we don't necessarily have to take on plantar fasciitis. If you were born completely with flat feet, which that doesn't happen all the time, it is a thing. You can be born with a completely flat foot.
I think I have it, by the way, right now.
Or you could have developed it over time. So we get to really observe which one is it. And that still doesn't mean that you have to have these diagnoses on you. I have scoliosis. I don't have back pain. I'm not limited in what I can do. You see my crazy handstands and I load and I lift and I do other things. So I'm not limited based on having that.
That's interesting you say that. I actually went to a chiropractor the other few weeks ago because I thought I had either tendonitis on the top of my foot or plantar fasciitis. I wasn't sure. Mm-hmm. And it turns out I do have that, but he says I have really bad scoliosis. Mm-hmm. Now, don't most people generally have a little bit of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
So what's considered a little or a lot? So he made me go get x-rays at somewhere else, come back, and it's basically, it looks like I'm he says, I look like a total S.
Yeah.
Does that mean people with that type of, if they have it a little bit, what's considered to be okay and not? Or is it just a scare tactic when they say, oh, you're please, Jen, what do you think of chiropractors? Are they good, bad, the other?
Well, I think it's the same as, I can say the same as an MD or a physical therapist. It always depends.
It depends, of course.
Because
I know, I'm just kidding.
I don't think that one dictates them all. And I can't say the same for physical therapists. There could be really bad physical therapists out there.
Right, that's true. That's true.
Who are just doing massage, just doing ultrasound, just doing light therapy, just doing dry needling, and that's all they're doing is what they're putting on a patient. So I say anytime a patient is going in and they're passively on the table and we're saying, I'm going to fix you based on my treatment. I'm going to fix you based on my adjustments. I'm going to fix you based on my manipulations.
Right.
If that's all that the treatment is, yeah, you're going to need to keep going again and again and again because you're relying on someone else to feel good. And what all those treatments do is they manipulate our nervous system. And they make our nervous system, for that moment, feel safe. For that moment, feel good. So you get an adjustment and you're like, oh my God, everything feels loose and amazing. We're also releasing endorphins when we hear that pop and we hear that crack.
We do?
Yes. And it's not necessarily literally adjusting something back into place. It's allowing our nervous system to feel safe. And when our nervous system feels safe, it feels like it can have more movement, more freedom. And so for that moment, it feels like we're fixed. But then why would we need to go again and again and again and again?
No,
because
absolutely.
It's not necessarily fixing anything because no one else can fix us. Like it's only what we do within our own body. So unless someone is teaching you the tools as to what you now need to do when you go home and why it's so important for you to start implementing this into your life, nothing's going to change.
It's with everything in life, though. This is just one microcosm of how everything is. But what I love about you, and I'm not just saying this because you're sitting in front of me, is that because you don't look at the body as just like what it is in the front of you as like the physical being. You really kind of figure out what is going on under the hood, deeper, and that's how you get true change and evolution in everything in life. Like you're saying, like that's the thing. That's my issue with a lot of chiropractors. Not all, of course.
Yeah. Is
you're fixing what's in front of you for that moment in time.
Yes.
But that's why it's constantly going back. But this is a bigger conversation, not just about like your physical ailments, but about like the mind-body connection and how what's going on inside is basically it manifests itself on the outside.
Yeah.
We're saying that. And so, a lot, like if you have rashes, if you have a pain in your foot, like what is going on? Like give us some examples, or let's talk a little bit through what it means when you have like a physical ailment, like what is happening on the inside.
There's so many different things that could be happening on the inside, and that's where I really go back into this conversation. Yeah. So externally, I say we don't have to take on anything someone else tells us. Just like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. If you allow that to be true, then you can't do it. But you don't have to take on any of that. Right. Like, oh, you're ugly. You whatever judgment someone else. I'm ugly. No, I'm just kidding. Whatever judgment someone else wants to put on you. Yeah. You don't have to take that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's up to us whether we're going to manipulate it. And when we're talking even genetically speaking, we now know that we have the ability to change the function of our genes. So although we can't change our DNA stays. We can change the function of how that DNA and how that gene is going to react.
How does that work though?
Changing our environment. So even meditation has been proved to turn on or to turn off our pro-inflammatory genes. And so now we get into that anti-inflammatory state just by meditating. Work? Yes, it's like literally in the research that when we go into the meditative state and we can do this over a time period of 8 hours, not all at once, but over an 8-hour period, it has been shown to turn off your pro-inflammatory genes. So that's how we're automatically getting into that anti-inflammatory state. If we change our environment based on the air that we're breathing in, how much water we're taking in, because our body is mostly made up of water, how much sleep we're getting, all of these things, and then what we're putting in our body based on what your individual body needs. I don't think there's a one size fits all, like, oh, you can't have dairy. I think it all depends on what your body needs, and I'm not going to go into that. I think go get checked, you know?
Of course.
See what your allergies are. But the more that you take out what doesn't serve your body and you put in what is good for your body, which I think we can all agree is like more whole, real foods, of more plant-based things and less or no sugar, would be a starting point. So when we go into changing up our environment in general, we already can start to change the function. And so a lot of these genetic disorders like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, cancer even. We can't say for certain, but a lot of these heart disease are driven through inflammation.
Right. No,
so if we can start to change how our gene is going to function based on that, then we're changing the function of that gene. So now I get to cross out all these genetic things that I've been told externally are placed on me.
So you're saying that because most of these things that you said is about inflammation.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out a way to lessen, of course, the inflammation in our body.
Yes.
And you're saying meditation, obviously, we've heard this especially in our world, we talk,
all the time.
We hear it all the time. Is it accumulative in the sense that if you just do a one-off here and there, it's not going to make a difference?
No.
But it's over time. That it will okay, what happens with somebody like myself, okay, who's a very type A personality, who my form of meditation isn't the same meditation that a lot of other people. So for me, in my head, I feel like running is my form of meditation, because it kind of like it in my brain, it soothes me. I can think, I can kind of like it kind of gets me to my baseline, but that also is very inflammatory in a lot of ways.
Right.
So what happens in that? Like, does it have to be meditation sitting there like is there another type of? What do you believe in different? My question is twofold.
Yeah.
Are there different forms of meditation that not a one size fits all? And then the other part is, well, first answer that, and then I'll get to the other part.
Yeah. I totally see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, there's many different forms of meditation, and not one size fits all, and there's no right or wrong way to do any meditation.
Because I can't sit still for 2 seconds doing that.
But I think that is something that you get to lean into then. Like, what am I resisting? Why am I resisting it? And why can't I do it?
It's true.
But here's my thing. I don't think it needs to look like, okay, let me turn on this app and try to listen to this person talking and think that I'm going to sit here and not be able to think of all the things that I have to do and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So when I'm usually working with a patient, we're working on breath work. What is my rib cage doing? How is it expanding? Can I feel it? What am I touching? When I get someone to tune into their bodies that way, and it becomes an exercise of how long you're going to breathe in, how long you're going to hold, how long you're going to breathe out, what is your rib cage doing? Feel the movement within your chest and your belly and your rib cage, and literally feel it on your body. You can't be doing running.
Right. No, exactly.
You can't be doing something else.
But breath work to me is very much meditation. It's just a different name.
Exactly.
You're just
and
calling
that's
it
why I
something
do
else.
that.
Right.
That's why I do that, because a lot of people are resistant to the word meditation.
So you think it's more of a change, it's psychological.
Yeah.
Like you hear the word meditation, I do anyway, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm not doing that.
Exactly, and a lot of people feel that, and that's totally okay. I get where that's coming from, and I see it.
Do you meditate?
So I do.
Of course, yeah.
And I can't say that I do it on a daily basis. I do get to be more practiced with that. But I do breath work. Well, I guess I do kind of meditate almost every day, and I've been doing it now with my partner, and that is so incredibly centering. Like syncing breath with another person too, and just getting into that rhythm together and doing that for an extended period of time.
That's
super
crazy.
centering.
Really? So
yeah.
A lot of people don't do it with their. So Jen has a new boyfriend, but we'll talk about that. I was going to wait 5 minutes before diving into that and getting into trouble, But since you did bring it up, not me. What's your new boyfriend's name? Dominic, right? Okay.
Yeah.
How he doesn't even live in LA. So how would you? Sorry, I should you're the guest. So who's your new boyfriend, Jen? What new boyfriend?
Cool. Yeah, cool. He is am I blushing?
Yes, I am too though, but okay, yeah.
He's a physical therapist. He's from Minnesota.
Okay.
And he, he's actually worked on a lot of his own anxieties and body pains and things through diving into like Wim Hof type stuff.
Oh yeah, I did that.
Box type breathing, cold exposure therapy, so doing different thermogenesis type stuff, and really working for himself in that way. He's been able to see changes in terms of bringing that to patient care.
But wait a second, we're going to get into that in a second. So how do you do coupled meditation if he lives in Minnesota and you live here? Do you do it on the phone?
We've done it FaceTime. We do it together whenever we're together, and then and we usually start our mornings with it, at least 5 minutes, and end our nights with it.
Wait, so you're on FaceTime?
Yeah, so we'll be on FaceTime
Okay.
and just say, okay, we're gonna do a 4-second inhale, hold for 2 seconds, 8-second exhale, hold for 2 seconds, and we'll do this rhythm together.
For how long?
Usually about 5 to 10 minutes.
It's like your version of like phone sex in a way, you know?
It is, right?
Oh my God, you're breathing heavy.
It's very spiritual. It's very connecting. I remember even when I was going to do a speech and I was feeling a lot of anxiety. It was the first time I was doing this kind of talk and blah, blah, blah. And we did breath work together, and it literally just centered me. And I was like, okay, ready, about to do it. And I can do that obviously for myself as well. And that's the same thing. So if we think about a breath cycle, this is how we can manipulate whether we're in the sympathetic and that stress and that fight or flight, or that parasympathetic, that rest, relax, digest state, if based on how we're breathing. So if we think of a breath cycle, we have the inhale and we have the exhale, right?
Right.
And that inhale state is more of that sympathetic state. So think of someone scaring you and you go, and you hold that inhale, and everything gets really tense and tight, and you breathe into your chest. It's usually from your mouth. That's that sympathetic state. So now anything that kind of mimics that all throughout the day. So if I'm breathing through my mouth majority of the day, I'm probably more in that inflammatory state.
So good.
If I'm breathing in and out through my chest, if I'm super tense and tight in my body, if I'm using more of like taking a deep breath in and using my inhale more than my exhale, then I'm thinking of this like, and it drives me nuts when people are like, take a deep breath, and you're like, and I'm like, you're staying in that sympathetic.
Yes, that's so true. And then the exhale is like,
Yeah, we don't think about that. But literally now think about when I go get a massage, what am I more in?
Yeah, that's so true.
The exhale. And it's the exhale that actually takes us into that parasympathetic. So
interesting. And
even if I take my body into better alignment, it's so much easier to then close my mouth and breathe in and out calmly through my nose. And my nose is really where my breathing center should be, not my mouth. My mouth is for eating.
Yeah.
My mouth is part of digestion.
Yeah.
This is my respiratory system. So I should be breathing in and out through my nose. I mean, not only does it have a lot more physiological benefits when I do it in and out through my nose.
What are they? I'm curious. What are the physiological benefits?
You actually end up getting a lot more oxygen all throughout your body because we're not expelling as much carbon dioxide. And when we keep more carbon dioxide within our body, that attaches onto hemoglobin, and then that attachment onto hemoglobin is what releases the oxygen.
Right.
So we get more oxygen through the bloodstream, more oxygen into our brain, and that's why even, it's been talked about a lot now, sleeping with your mouth closed.
Oh, right. That's right.
That's a huge thing.
Because sleep apnea is a really big thing right now. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
so
and sleeping with your mouth closed is huge if you want to actually wake up alert and ready for the next day with more energy, because you get literally more blood flow, more oxygen into your brain.
But how do you control that when you're sleeping?
So some people will put like a little piece of Scotch tape this way, not this way.
Seriously?
But this way, because Scotch tape also is very easy to come apart.
Right.
Right? So if I need to, in the middle of the night, open my mouth, it will open. So it's not something to suffocate you. I'm not trying to, don't put duct tape on your mouth, people.
Right. But it's a reminder.
It's a reminder to keep your mouth closed. It's just, it's that proprioceptive feedback to just teach your brain and your body how to do that.
Does it work?
Yeah. I mean, try it for a week.
I mean, that's a really good piece of advice. What else could someone do?
So that's one thing that I love doing. Another thing is really, everything that we talk about for getting into the parasympathetic system and getting back into that rest, relax, again, longer exhales, shorter inhales, huge. In and out through your nose, huge. And then there's actually areas of our body where our lymphatic system and our nerves cross over. And when we tap into those areas, we're actually able to stimulate more of a relaxation state and get more fluid moving through our body. If we want more fluid, like our fascia not to be so restricted, we need more fluid movement. So it comes with obviously getting water in throughout the day, but also like getting more lymph moving throughout our body. So that's why I love dry brushing too. which is super. You could buy a dry brush on Amazon. You can look up on YouTube how to do dry brushing. Super easy. And it's literally 2 minutes before you shower. You're just like, you can even do it with your hand, literally just like moving lymph toward your heart, and you get fluids moving better.
And it works?
Oh, yeah. Again, not just once.
Yeah, but it's accumulative.
Accumulative.
Yeah. I think that's the key with a lot of things. Like everything is accumulative.
Everything.
Habits are accumulative. If you do anything just one off here, there, that doesn't do anything.
Nothing.
If you have like one Big Mac, it doesn't change your life. If you have one salad, it doesn't change your life.
Right,
you
exactly.
have to do it on a regular, consistent basis, and
100%.
But that's the key to everything.
Everything.
And people don't want to understand that it's not. Oh, I did it yesterday. Okay, well, you can do it today. It's like brushing your teeth. It's habitual.
Yes.
Like, shower. You don't shower just once every 2 weeks. Well, maybe some
people.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe some do, but if you want to have hygiene, it's about the consistency. So
everything is consistency.
So that dry brush that you were saying is helpful to basically for your lymphatic system, and
to move.
Wait, say it again.
Just to get your lymph to move better. Because the thing about fascia too is that we need slide and glide between fascial layers. Fascia is all intertwined, so there's not necessarily layers, but think of it like the connective tissue that overlines everything. We have superficial fascia, that's what like kind of stops our skin from going back and forth. We have fascia that overlies our muscle tissue. We have fascia within our organs. We have fascia overlying our nerves. Like everything in our body is connected through this connective tissue called fascia. And the way that it moves really well is one, having calmness in our system, so not having that built-in tension, and then two, having more fluid between our system so that it can actually move and glide. And so getting water and having your lymph move really well are ways to be able to improve not only our mobility but calm our system.
So that basically all of these little tips and tricks kind of are for your body to be less inflammatory, right?
Yes.
So that's why the lymphatic system is so important, because it drains it basically drains the toxins and like keeps things moving and fluid.
Yes, exactly. And so there's different touch points. So actually right underneath your collarbone, if you're just like kind of rub right underneath your collarbone like 30 seconds, and do this with the exhale, breathing through your nose and really just relaxing.
What does it do?
Over the sternum. So this is where like those nerves in the lymphatic system cross.
So that's what, name some places right here.
Yeah, so sternum. Over the sternum. So the areas that usually feel a little bit like, ooh, that doesn't feel good to touch, And then actually grabbing underneath the rib cage and kind of rubbing underneath the rib cage. Again, not so that you're in pain and you're locked up, but you want to breathe with this. That's going to be most effective, is that long exhale and that slow breathing. And so anytime you kind of come into this like stressful state, like do some of these points, and it like just feel what happens. You will be amazed within your body.
So how long do you do it for?
It's just about like 30 seconds in each spot.
And you have to breathe while you're doing it.
Yeah. So I would say like either time it or just do 10 slow breaths in each spot. 5 to 10 slow breaths, really slow. So again, in through your nose like 4 seconds, out through your nose or mouth, and really slow for 8 seconds. So like in and then out for a longer period of time. Right.
So the exhale is really important.
Yes.
And to basically move around the places where like people, like where it usually feels kind of gross, makes a big, what you gotta move it around as you're breathing. You breathe. Mm-hmm. And the dry brush is a good one too. Mm-hmm. I also think that, what I think about that couples meditation that or couples breath work, the euphemism for meditation. Why I like it is that it also gives people couples or people to do together as kind of build not just rapport. That's not the right word. I'm like, what do you call it? Like it's just closeness or and also like it keeps you accountable. Like if I'm doing, it's like kind of like having a workout buddy, right? Like you have someone else to kind of keep you accountable or kind of make you do something that maybe normally would be uncomfortable. Yeah, that you guys
and it's a way together. To just like connect again, it's easy to disconnect in this world that's just hustle and go and like, oh hi sweetie, bye, and like and this is a way to actually like, how can we both like be here, present, and connect again?
But if you're doing the 4 breaths in and the 8 breaths out, how long is that period? Was it 10 minutes you do it, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
I say at least start and give yourself at least, like, don't even time it. See how long you can go. And maybe you're like, or maybe you turn on a timer. You're like, I got 5 minutes right now. Do it for 5 minutes. Like, that's okay. Especially nature, super calming. Like, that has studies as well that can just like tap us out of pain. So even if you're just like like you're on a run, take a moment to like sit in a tree and focus on this breath and see, like, can I touch these different points, and what is my rib cage doing, and am I breathing into my chest, and just start to observe, because even just observing our body will get us out of like the thought process of everything else I have going on within the day, right? And so that's a quick meditative practice, and especially you're in nature, you're sitting, like, it just being able to come back to centering and calm. We all need.
Everyone needs it. I mean, that's something that's so hard for people who are not typically that person or type A to kind of get to that place.
Totally.
It's really, really difficult.
I agree, but it's so incredibly crucial.
It
and
is.
Not later, but now. And when you also, I like to say, like, when we start to change the function of our genes, we're able to pass that function on. So if you're not only just doing it for you, do it for little humans who might come after you, and for generations after you. Like, because we do take on some genetic predisposition from what we had. We don't have to own that, and we have the ability to start to adapt and start to change the function. So if you can start it within you right now, imagine what you can carry on after that.
Is this part of your program, the Optimal Body? Is this what you do in it, or what is your
I'm bringing in mindset tools for sure to start to work through these kinds of things, but Optimal Body is more focused physically right now. So we do, like, talking about functional HIIT workouts, meaning, like, what does your single leg stability look like? What does internal rotation of your hip, external rotation in an exercise form look like?
I love what you did on Instagram with that deadlift, that single leg deadlift, because when your hip is, because that's, and you know, this is what I do for a living, my hip always swings out because it's just, my body, I feel, is predisposed because I've been doing something for so long that what happens is that becomes like my new normal, that you have to retrain as you retrain your brain, your body to do something properly, right? That was a great video.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, you're welcome. So it's basically, that's more of a physical program.
Yeah. And it's dropping in the tools for mindset, but just like listen to this podcast, you know, and listen to like the tools and start to implement that, and know that, like, even I have people like write out a list sometimes, like, what are all the things that I've been told get passed down onto me? Now, what do I have control over based on inflammation? Can I cross off things that come from inflammation? And then you see, like, oh, there's actually, like, I don't have to take this on. Right. I don't have to have this as what is put on me, and I get to control it now.
Well, I love these tips and tricks, because I think what I love about it is that it's like people can listen to this and then they can actually implement it easily. Like, here's an easy way that you can. Here are 5 easy ways that you can really reduce inflammation in your body by doing this, 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 and this, as opposed to this like esoteric. Well, maybe if you do this, and these are actually like proven things that will actually lessen the inflammation in your body, which, by the way, inflammation not only causes a lot of disease, but I think it also gives you a lot of mental your mental clarity. Totally. And it helps with your cognitive function. Like, inflammation is like deadly in so many ways. Yeah. It really is.
And it comes with not only our environment, but how we're reacting to our environment. So and then that's where the internal conversation comes in. Right. So the internal conversation is, okay, I've taken on all these things. So now I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't have this. I don't have that. And it's like, why are we focused on what we don't have or what we can't do? Like, let's put that to the side, and let's just focus on what we can do and what we do have within our body. Because when that's possible, we can lean into anything. And it might not look exactly the way you expected it to, and like the end result, but you can still go on a journey of, like, I want to be this kind of athlete. You can still do that. You might not be the best, but you can still lean in. And so I don't like, let's get out of this mentality of what we don't have, what we, can't control. Because one of the great things about going through physical therapy school, I got to work with so many different humans and individuals. And one guy who really impacted me, he has cerebral palsy and lives in a wheelchair, but he lives on his own. And watching him like get down from his wheelchair and put on his shoes and socks, it takes like 20 minutes because he's contractured all over. And not only does he have contractures, but he can't use the motor control of his mouth. Super brilliant, so smart, but can't physically talk. And we look at him and we say limitations, the way he can't do. But he looks at it and says, okay, what can I do? And what do I have control over? And when he got too big to pull himself back into his wheelchair, he started swimming with his physical therapist so that he can lose weight.
Really?
Yes. So again, okay, I can't pull myself into my wheelchair. What do I have control over? And he continues to come back to this mindset of what I do have and what I can do. And he lives completely on his own.
That's amazing. That's an incredible, incredible story. Because I think, again, this is everybody. It's about what you tell yourself, what you can or cannot do. And people put their own limitations on themselves based on so many different variables in their life, right? And I think we'll get into the other part of the conversation after, but someone like that, if someone like that can see the glass half full and what they can do. By the way, when I wrote Strong as a New Skinny, I wrote it because the message behind that was the same. Not everybody can be skinny. Not everyone's born to be a waif, right?
Yeah.
But my whole point is not everyone can be skinny, but everybody can be strong.
Yeah.
So focus on something, a goal that's actually attainable, that you can do, because everyone can be stronger, right? Not everyone can be skinny. And it's the same kind of methodology. It's like focus on what you could have control over, what you can make better, because that mindset builds confidence and self-esteem, which then it basically spirals into so many other positive attributes, right? But I love that story about that guy. That's amazing. That really is.
Yeah.
And
it's everything.
And then, like, this is what the podcast is really about, is about like basically like having positive habits, really like what people do day to day to be the best versions of themselves, or be the most productive, or be whatever that is, right? I mean, and like kind of like giving people practical takeaways, right, that they can kind of help implement. So like something like, I love that story. That guy like just threw me off. That's an amazing story because it's amazing. Like it brings tears to my eyes, because I think that there's people who have so much more in life, and they're just always like what they don't have.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's what we tend to focus on. And as a society, it's what we tend to focus on. Even me. I remember getting, like, I would regularly get ready in the morning. This was a few years ago, and I would be tearing down everything that I don't like, or, oh, this is gross, or, oh, this is bad, and tearing myself down.
Right.
And someone said, like, you're creating a really negative environment. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, this is just what I say to myself. Like, I'm not saying it to anyone else.
Right.
And when that became just clicked an awareness to me, I saw my mom doing it to herself. I saw my friends doing it to themselves. And it was a norm that we did in society, at least, especially for women, I would say.
That's a very female thing to do, though, right? Like, oh, I look so ugly. I'm so fat. I like that. Like, that's just like, it's your go-to.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's your go-to, right?
But again, focused on the negative rather than the positive. What am I drawing into myself? And then what is the environment that I'm allowing other people to step into as well?
That's such a great point.
And so that's when I was like, oh, whoa, this really gets to change. And so I committed to myself to write down 2 to 3 things I loved about myself every single day for 30 days. And I asked for accountability. And I said, okay, Mom, you don't get to say anything negative about yourself. If you do, I'm going to catch you and make you switch it. And if I say anything negative, you get to catch me and make me switch it. And I did the same for my friends. And now my friends know, like, no one's allowed to say anything negative about themselves, because we catch each other, we hold each other accountable, and we're here to build each other up, not only each other, but ourselves. That's
like a kind of like a 30-day challenge.
Yeah.
That's positive.
Yeah.
Like I was saying on another podcast like a little while ago, that some of these 30-day challenges, they could be destructive, because what happens is, of course, you're like going in deprivation, then when you get off of them. But this is one of the 30-day challenges that that can actually be really, really positive, because
it can be life-changing.
It can be life-changing because it's changing your brain and tweaking by doing a small thing like that every single day. That becomes your new habit. And
it just builds awareness. Like even I noticed
catching yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now I notice, like, even if I look at a photo for the first time, am I drawing it just to myself and saying, I don't like it because I don't like what I'm seeing?
But everyone does that.
Everyone does that. But now how can we switch that and say, and the first thing that we look at, be like, oh, look at this amazing group of people, or look at this location that we're at, like how amazing, and have that be the first thing. And then maybe you're like, but maybe we can also take another photo. That's okay. But what if the first thing we went to was something positive, something we appreciated, something we're grateful for, rather than something we need to tear down?
And I think what you just said is, like, if you put yourself on some kind of challenge for a certain finite amount of time, where you're making other people accountable for you and vice versa.
Yes.
That's how like that habit change. That's how you change that behavior. That's the only way, because people come on all the time and we talk about this, we read about this, like, just have a positive mindset. Just think positive affirmations.
Right.
But you have to start somewhere. You can't just like one day be like, okay, I'm going to do it, unless you have like a support system to kind of catch you when you're not doing it.
Accountability is everything in life. Business accountability, personal accountability, fitness accountability. It's everything.
Everything. Consistency and accountability are what makes people successful in anything in their life, personal, professional. 100%. So like, but what happens if someone's not in your brain? So like, if you're getting dressed and you're with your mom, and you have this thing with your mom or your friends, you could still be getting dressed and be like, oh, I look ugly. There's no one to stop your account. There's no one to stop you and be like,
That's why. I mean, that's how I grew up, listening to that is the norm.
But then, so how do you stop? Like, so when you do that, because you're on this challenge, you'll be like, no, I can't. I'm not allowed. Like, it'll remind you not to think that way.
It's a reminder for me. Yeah.
Not to think that way.
Especially at the end of the night, when I'm like, okay, what are 2 to 3 things I have to write down about myself? Which after a few days, you're like, shit, what else do I love about myself?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was going to say, like, after a few days, like, what are you writing down?
But it's, like, and mostly what people tend to go to is personality, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I love this about my personality, this. Eventually, you're going to get into what you actually love physically about yourself, too, which is so powerful to be able to acknowledge.
Really? I feel like you're right. I feel like because we're so critical on our physical appearance that, like, once you finish all the personality things, you're like, fuck, now what? You have to start, like, okay, I guess I have nice arms or nice toes or whatever.
Yes.
Like, you have to start doing something.
Yes, exactly.
That's a really good one, Jen. That's a really good one. And then I think, because like what you're saying, what happens is once we're so used to having that negativity, then we end up like doing other things in our environment that would kind of support that, like bad relationships, or otherwise, Jen, of course, well, not of course, but had a very serious relationship, and it didn't end very well. I'm not going to say anymore because I don't want to. Jen can say it. He was not exactly a good guy, and like you were saying before, basically based on. Because you don't know sometimes the chicken or the egg, like what happens first, right?
Yes.
You thought then that like that's what you were okay with, and that's what you should have, or like what you deserve, right? Because of all these other things, all the other variables that kind of interplay.
Right. So that's where I think we dive into what I think is the most important part of the conversation, which is listening. Because if I'm in conversation with someone, I'm saying you're worth listening to. But I don't think we do that enough to our bodies. Like, you're worth listening to.
Right.
What your body is feeling in terms of tired or bloated or restricted or weak or whatever. Like, instead of just, what is the one pill? What is the one exercise? What is the one thing?
Quick fix.
Instead of masking what our body is trying to tell us, what if we actually took the time to listen? And that's where I like to bring people back into it. It's like, and listening doesn't mean like, okay, well, I'm craving sweets, so I'm just going to grab sweets.
Exactly.
Listening actually means, after I eat this food, do I feel bloated? And so what can I change within that food that maybe might not make me feel bloated next time, or might not make my stomach ache, Or how could I maybe add something in that would give me more energy? And maybe that is breathing and going into meditation. Maybe that is getting an extra couple hours of sleep. Maybe that is getting more water, whatever it may be, or changing your environment, or putting headphones in when you're at work so you don't have to listen to the outside noise.
Right.
Like, how can you start to shift and change your environment or what you're putting in your body to actually start to listen to what it needs and what makes it feel better? And that's the listening portion. And we sometimes, we're out of tune with that. And I realized for myself that the listening goes way further than even just that physical aspect. But it's like, what's my intuition telling me? Mm-hmm. What inner am I really not listening to? And last year I ended up getting shingles. And I realize now that I was not listening to that inner portion, that intuition. It was like there is a person inside me screaming to be heard, screaming to like, I'm not okay and something's not right, and I needed help. And rather than really being heard and being seen, I didn't feel like that was happening. So my body manifested shingles.
Yeah, wow.
And it was like, I like forgot about it for a little bit, or I didn't forget about it. I ignored it because I thought, like I've had a rash come up from like heat from like working out and stuff. So I thought, it might just be that. And then I went to the dermatologist and she was like, that's shingles. I'm like, great.
Yeah, exactly.
Confirmed, stressed.
Right. So because it's shingles, because I had shingles when I was pregnant. It was very odd. But yeah, crazy. I got shingles when I was pregnant. And it's a very odd thing to get, because a lot of people get it when they're under a lot of stress. Yes. Like physical stress, mental stress. Like, so before you got your shingles, because you weren't pregnant, where were you in your brain? Like, did you feel like you're immune? Did you feel stressed?
I did feel stressed.
Did you have any other kind of ailment that kind of, or precursor?
So I didn't have anything like that, but I did have, at the time, I was in a relationship that I was getting very frustrated, that I felt like it wasn't moving in a trajectory I thought it would be.
Right.
And I had been very patient. It had been 4 years. And I'm like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
And so I was getting very frustrated. And I even sought out therapy to help with both of us.
Like couples therapy or just?
Couples therapy. And even through that, I still felt not seen, not heard, and kind of pushed down.
And frustrated. And
so frustrated. And it wasn't until I told the therapist that I had shingles that she finally was like, you actually need attention too.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's crazy.
And
it was manifesting. We were talking about this earlier. Like, whatever happens, it does manifest itself physically. Like, there's such a connection between what happens, mind, body, environment.
And so what I realized is that I was so out of alignment within my relationship. So that was part of my environment that I was not aligned with, because I could meditate, which I did. I even got like this little, I remember getting this little book, because I was just I was seeking something. Right. I was like, I'm so something needs to change and shift. And I remember getting this little book that was like Meditations for Strong Women. And it helped. I loved reading it. I loved meditating on it. I was journaling. I was seeking out therapy. I move all the time. I work out. I eat well. So I was doing all the things.
You're doing everything else.
Yes, exactly. But instead, really listening to my intuition, where my intuition was telling me I'm not in a place that I need to be in this relationship, and it is okay to step away.
Right.
And I wasn't listening to that. And instead, I was saying, no, I need to be more understanding. I need to be more accepting. I need to be more lenient. I need to be more whatever. Yeah. And I realized that the more that I kept saying I needed to be more of something, the more I was telling myself, bottom line, I'm not enough.
Right.
Because if I need to be more of something for someone else, then that means who I am inside is not enough.
Right. So true.
And so at the end of the day, the relationship fell apart because I found out about some unfaithfulness and infidelity.
Sorry, I said it.
I found out about, unfaithfulness. And so I was able to step away, but it was a huge wake-up call. duh, like, did I need this to step away? I didn't. And I could have stepped away before. So for me, it was this forgiveness of myself for not stepping away sooner.
But did you have an intuition
Yes.
that he was unfaithful already?
I didn't have an intuition that he was unfaithful. I had an intuition that core values that really meant the most to me were not aligned.
Yeah.
Like, some core values for me are family, like, huge.
Yeah.
Family's huge. And he was just like, that was the hardest thing for him to, like, really be involved with my family. And I just kept, okay, I need to be more understanding, more accepting, more this, more that, rather than saying, no, this is not in alignment.
So you were compromising your core value system for someone else.
Yes.
So that's what was like giving you that, like, that kind of
stress.
like aggravation and frustration. But usually they say when people are cheaters, people usually have the intuition, like women or men, whoever the cheatee is, whatever. And you're so like in tune.
So I think I am now more so than I was. And I think where it came from, where I didn't allow myself, so I think I am in tune, but I didn't allow myself to listen to that or trust it, because I've also been, and this is, again, just me personally, I realized that I've grown up very amazing lifestyle with beautiful family, but I've also been taught, like, what I do and what to do, and like, oh, I go to church, I do well in school, I do, like, I'm a good gymnast, citizen. I'm very law abiding, I'm very like follow the rules, I'm very do what I'm told, and so through that process I never really developed how to listen to my own intuition and when I would listen and how to trust that within myself. Yeah. And I think because I even went through my own stuff of like not loving myself, not really seeing that, not, all that kind of stuff, it just all kind of like, I know why I was in that relationship. Right. I know how I drew that in. Right. Not feeling secure in myself, not knowing my intuition, not listening to myself. I knew from the very beginning, I had told myself this would be someone that I have fun with, but never someone long term. Right. I had told myself that from the very beginning. You knew that already. So had I listened and trusted how to listen to that, we wouldn't, like, none of this would have happened. Right.
So you did have intuition at the beginning.
I did.
And you decided not to listen to it and trust it.
Yes.
So you basically probably shoved it, pushed it behind, in the back of your head. So you did have that intuition.
I did, and I didn't listen to it, and that taught me how to not listen to it again and again and again, and I'm so grateful actually for what happened, because it gave me this freedom of like, oh, I can trust myself. Yeah. Like I do know. And it was such a beautiful lesson to be able to learn. And then the forgiveness came not in him, because his choices and what he decides to do, that's his own journey. Yeah. But for me, like, I forgive myself for thinking that I'm not enough and that I needed to stay in this relationship. I forgive myself for not walking away sooner. Right. I forgive myself ultimately for not trusting myself.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful point, Jen, because number one, I think when you meet somebody, it was how many years, 4 or 5 years ago, like people evolve and morph over time and years, right? Like you've been on a personal growth journey for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And the person you were when you met him on day one is obviously not the same person you are on day whatever it is now, mm-hmm. right? So, it's nice, and it's a really positive message, I guess, that you're putting out there, that like you, instead of like putting the onus on someone else's, jerk off moves, you're saying, you know what, like whoever I was, that is, I've learned from it, mm-hmm. and now instead of putting it on him, I'm just forgiving myself, or I'm moved past it, knowing what I deserve, what I can tolerate. Because the truth of the matter is, you have changed since like that moment. Like when I met you, when I knew you, when you were going out, when you were still dating him, there has been a slight change in like your personality now, where it's like you do seem a little bit more like open and not happy, but kind of like, mm-hmm. you're kind of like, you are like, it's because like what you're willing to tolerate and like what you want.
I'm clear.
And you're clear. And it's like you've kind of grown from it and moved on from it.
Totally. And I've done the work, like, and I will say to anyone, don't compare anyone's journey. Yeah. Like, I think it's like there's no there's no one size fits all for anything, right? And so there's also no like, okay, this person cheated, that means you walk away. Like, maybe for some, that means you have a family, you have things. Maybe they're willing to dive in and truly do the work. Like, it is brave if you stay, and you're worthy for staying. You're worthy for walking away, and it's brave to walk away. Either way, I don't say one is better than the other, and one is right or wrong. It's not about right or wrong. It's about your own, like, knowing what you need for you
and your journey. But for the purpose of what this is all about, it's the fact that having toxic relationships, having toxicity around you in your environment affects your mental health. It affects your physical health. It affects every piece of what's going on. So if you're trying to be, if you're trying to level up, which people love that terminology, you really have to have come to Jesus with yourself and look at every aspect of what's going on in your life, because you're never going to get to that place if you don't take care of like your business in your backyard of how people make you feel. That to me is like a big one too, right? Because that will give you either confidence or insecurity.
Exactly.
And that will move you or shift you in one way or another.
Totally. So who aligns with you? And it's okay for you not to feel it with one person. Again, that doesn't make it wrong or bad with that person. It just makes it like, hey, listen, I'm going to listen that something in my gut comes up when I am around this person. It doesn't feel good. So I'm not going to keep putting myself in that situation. That's what it's about.
No, absolutely. I agree. So then, like, that's why I say you're much more than just a doctor of physical therapy, because you're always trying to improve yourself personally, professionally, everything. Like, you've given us amazing tips. Like, what's your core focus now? Is it the mobility method? Do you see patients? Do you do the optimal body? Like, you're like a powerhouse on social media, Doc Jen Fit. She has almost 1 million people following her. What's your core right now that you spend most time doing?
For me, honestly, my core is like coming back still into me. I think this whole journey, this whole process of coming out of that past relationship and really learning about myself and taking time for myself has been huge. Yeah. And I've actually, like, to be completely honest, stepped away from like as much business hustle, which has felt freeing. Yeah. And I really am committed to like, okay, what do I really feel value in, and what do I really feel like I can help people with? And I know I continue to post on social media because people have resonated not only with my story, but still with how I educate as well. And that means a lot to me.
Well, you're a good educator on it. That's why,
Thank you.
I said. And do you feel pressure a little bit with that? Like, I feel like when you have that many followers and that much, stuff, do you feel like there's an anxiety, like you have to keep on giving out good content and be present all the time and like share your life, when maybe sometimes you're just not in the mood, like you said, like you just want to be alone or like take time for yourself? Like, is there a lot of that happens?
Honestly, not really. For me personally, it's something that I have always enjoyed. That's how it got built in the first place, is just like, oh, cool. Like, this is happening. Let me lean in. Right. And it's always something that I've just like enjoyed doing. So I like leaning in. And
it's also your knowledge base, which is different maybe too.
Yeah. And I know that for me, like, if a day goes by or a few days go by and I'm like, I don't have anything inspiring that I feel inspired by to promote or to post or to educate on, that I'm not going to. And like last night I was at like a woman's dinner. So it was like, I don't need to post right now, not attached. It's going to be fine. It's going to be there.
Like, as we said, don't you ever feel like, oh shit, like I'm at this event that like I have to like share it with my followers, and then you can't really enjoy the moment sometimes, like when you just can't just like sit there and like have a good conversation with whoever's at your women's dinner, because you gotta be like, wait, I want to show everyone, A, B, and C,
So it depends. Sometimes I'll go to something and there'll be nothing that's shared, and that was exactly the result. I was 100% present in it. Last night, I didn't end up taking any videos. I was tagged in one, so I was able to then share it later the next day.
What a crazy world we live in. Like, why do you have to feel that? I mean, not you. I'm talking more about a bigger...
But we do. We feel the need to share. And I think it just comes back to, like, okay, like, look into yourself. And this is where I come into, like, how do you tap into listening to your intuition? Like, really getting clear. Like, who are you? And this even goes into like, what are you going to share? Like, what are you sharing for? take away like what society thinks that you should do, what parents think you should do, what friends think you should do. Like, take it away. Why is it that you're sharing? Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't feel real and authentic, why are you sharing it? Or like coming back into intuition. Who are you? Like, who do you want to be? Who do you want to show up as? And again, take away what parents want from you. Take away what society wants from you. Take away from friends or a significant other, and really get clear on who you are. And I would say do breath work into that. Journal on it. Talk about it with friends. Like, the more that you get clear on who you are, the more that you're going to get clear on who you want around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I'm sure you've heard this, maybe not, but you are the sum of the 5 people closest to you in your life. So that's why it's, again, very important to like really look around the room and see who you're the 5 people you're closest with, because chances are
their energy rubs off.
Absolutely.
Like, and I also say, like, I'm not friends with only entrepreneurs and that thing. Like, I am a very super loyal person. Like, my family isn't all entrepreneurs, and I'm super close to them, and I don't think that's bad. But it's also like, okay, how much energy am I putting into relationships, and just understanding for me and myself, like, what's important and where I want to move into. So if it is a time in my life where I want to like really hustle and work, I'm going to surround myself around more people who are going to inspire me to shift into that.
But life's also a whole, right? Like being an entrepreneur and having those qualities what makes a good entrepreneur, an entrepreneur, that's one piece of the pie. But if you want to be a good person, and if you want to have a whole life, personally, professionally, you're around your family, like you said. But to me, your family has given you a lot of core values that are
100%.
that are like so strong and positive. Yeah. Like, that makes someone a good entrepreneur. That makes someone a good friend. That makes somebody a good husband. Whatever. Like, you got to be a whole person.
I think so too.
So you surround yourself with people who have the qualities that you want, like kindness.
Yeah.
If it is kindness.
Yeah.
If it's drive, you have people who have driven, who have drive.
Yes.
But usually, I feel like water does always find its level, and you gravitate to people that you're typically similar to.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then with other aspects, then you're able to weed out and whatever else.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's important to not just have people who are just one dimension, like hardcore, driven, entrepreneur, but like the other stuff help balance you. Mm-hmm.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful thing when you're able to really get clear. And it's like, that's how I've met I really think I've met the person that I'm with now, because I've gone through what I've gone through and gotten just so clear on what it is that I want. And I've been unapologetically myself, asking for what it is that I want in a relationship and that I'm really looking for in a partner. And he's matched that to like above and beyond. And it's really felt like such a connected soul thing that I've never felt in my life.
Wow, look at that. Did you hear that, Dominic? Wow. You should take this podcast and like send him that. Oh, wow. It's amazing. That was really nice. That's a really nice thing to say. It's very nice. I never heard that about the other guy. And you know who you are. Just kidding. I'm going to get in trouble after. No.
I know.
Okay. Jen, so where do people find you? Tell them all your information. So if they don't know who you are and they want more amazing information on the body, on mobility, on self-improvement, please. Yeah.
So I'm on Instagram the most, DocJenFit. I across handles though, website DocJenFit, Facebook, YouTube, DocJenFit for everything. And then the mobility method, you can really go in and learn about your own body. It's a whole self-assessment stuff. And then the optimal body is a way to just, again, be able to learn. It's all about, my stuff is all about education. It's not about like losing weight and getting fit and getting strong even. It's just about educate your body. Start to learn about what's not working well so that you can start to improve on what you need to work well.
Well, that's why that's great. And that's why I think you have as many followers as you do, because like the education part, you don't just like post just silliness. You give people like real fundamental information that's helpful, and most people don't do that crap. So with that being said, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm going to have you on again.
Yay.
Bye.